Now we are live. Go, Bart.
All right, we are live, Scott. And who do we have with us, and what are we testing tonight?
Well, hopefully everybody knows I'm Scott. You're Bart. Right. We're the Scotch Test Dummies.
Bingo.
And Mark, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Mark Gillespie. I do this little weekly podcast thingy that's called Whiskey Cast, and I've been doing it about 12 years now. So the show is old enough to have an age statement, if you want to put it that way.
That's right.
And thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for being on. We were just commenting when you came on. It's so surreal because we've been listening to your dulcet tones over our podcast for years now.
Thanks.
And Scott had even told me, when we did the little test on Thursday, it was kind of odd actually seeing you and hearing you at the same time.
Well, I've got a face for radio, so I generally try to stay off the camera as much as possible. So that's why podcasting works so well.
Me too, but I just said, heck, I'm throwing my mug right on the front. All right. Now, what do we got?
We got Thomas 8, the 2016 Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. Thomas H. Handy, Sazerac Rye, bottled at 63.1%. And Bart, what are we going to do?
We're going to test it! Boom! And talk to Mark.
Works for me.
Mark has
I'm jealous because you guys have a full bottle. I just have this little wee sample bottle.
Well, that still looks like at least a 3 or a 4 ouncer.
Oh, well, Glencairn. So
there you go. There you go.
We got the compare. It's about a 50 ml sample, airline size.
Now, Mark did talk us into also, if time is permitting.
Oh, it'll be permitting.
We'll make room for it.
Midleton, Barry Crockett, Legacy Edition.
Now, I'll explain how this happened. Mark sees this in the background and says, why don't we do more than one? And I know it's phenomenal. And then he calls it out. Way in the background, he sees it. Scott's been shepherding this. He will not open it. And turned out Mark had some. We actually got to meet the boss, the head CEO.
Yes, the managing director. I am not the boss of this little operation. I am just merely the meat puppet that does the on-camera stuff and tries to do the voiceover stuff. My boss and business partner, Christina, is a Midleton Barry Crockett junkie. She generously brought down her full bottle of it so that we could taste it tonight because the last bottle of it they killed over Christmas and I didn't get any of it. So,
Hey,
Bart, Claire has noticed that we are Blue Man Group. Why don't you tell everybody real quick?
Go ahead. You explain. It's Blue for Brian.
Hashtag Blue for Brian.
Hashtag Blue for Brian. In Wichita, Kansas, we have a friend. He's been a police officer for 25 years. I'm going to say Mark, too, actually put on some dark blue as soon as he heard the story. We explained why we're in blue. They were in a pursuit of a stolen Tahoe. Brian, his name's been released. Officer Brian Arterburn was trying to put out some stop sticks, flatten the tires. And I wasn't on scene, or I didn't see this thing happen, but he was struck by the vehicle and is in stable but very critical condition. He broke 8 ribs, 2 skull fractures. He had a brain bleed, some other internal injuries that they've worked on. But the community's been real good. They're doing this thing with the Blue for Brian, and everybody's been wearing it. The officers have been wearing blue T-shirts instead of whites under the uniform. So we wanted to kind of represent. And then Mark actually unwired and went and put on a blue shirt as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And here's to you, Brian. Good luck.
So that's the reason for the blue here. Now, what else you got coming in? Now, by the way, that was Claire. We're calling him Claire 3 or third Claire.
It's gender neutral Claire.
Yeah, we're going gender neutral Claire, even though we know it's Claire the 3rd.
Yeah.
Is she an Eau Claire, though?
Well, it turns out we believe it's a he Claire.
Oh,
yes. And we were asking, and we got a cryptic response of "I'm Claire the 3rd." So I believe we now just refer to Claire as Claire the 3rd.
Okay.
Or third Claire, I think, is what we're doing. All right. Now we probably should. We got a little bit of criticism last time because they wanted us to actually get in a real solid review of the liquid. And since we might even be doing 2.
No, the criticism was you was talking too much about
First of all, that's great English.
Other
You're doing
stuff.
right there. That was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I talk about other stuff sometimes. Actually, what were we reviewing?
That was the Glengoyne 25.
But I had drank mine about a month prior, so I was doing a
You-
Corsairs. Oh, triple smoke. Now, Mark, before we get in and nose, why don't you tell us what you get on the nose first? You're the guest. You're the expert, clearly.
I love the nose on this one. I get these really good rye notes that you would expect to get. A lot of spice. I get some clove, a little bit of cinnamon, some molasses, maybe a little bit of brown sugar in the background underneath it. A little bit. Really good balance on this one.
Love the brown sugar.
Right when I popped the cork, I got ginger.
Huh.
I mean,
Yeah.
and the notes that you're pointing out as well, but it's like when I opened it and I smelled it, I thought, wow, there's ginger in there.
Yeah.
I get the spice, the cinnamon. It's a sweet, but almost like a sweet tobacco way in the back too.
Yeah. I could see that, a little bit of pipe tobacco, something like that.
Exactly. Yes.
But I get this nice, almost like a molasses cookie note.
Mm.
in the
Yeah.
background.
Bruno gives me a hard time because I called it a Zazarak. I love the regular. This is the first time we've had the big time fancy high proof version here. Now,
Well, this is about 6 or 7 years old, so this
Okay.
is it's not an old one by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really they pick these according to taste and not necessarily age down in Frankfurt. But I've always been impressed with the Handies.
and that was one thing I was going to ask you. You've already thrown in a wonderful tidbit there, is what other things you knew about this, maybe from behind the scenes or just with your depth of knowledge even.
Well, the Handy is the uncut, unfiltered version. Think of this as the Stag equivalent for rye whiskeys.
Gotcha.
It's uncut, unfiltered. You expect to get a lot of spice on these each year. I've always been impressed with the entire range in the antique collection, but the Handy, I love ryes, and this one always just sort of stands out for me as just this amazing butt-kicking rye.
That's
And
what I like.
it almost always needs a little bit of water.
Gotcha.
Now,
I
let me
love
ask,
a butt kicking in my ride too. I get that.
just because you said you like that, how about the James E. Pepper Barrel Proof 1776 straight rye whiskey? Have you had that one?
I have not had that one.
Mm.
And that's one I need to get my hands on. Believe it or not, I've not tasted everything out there. There are whiskeys I don't get to taste.
That is a crying
Bullcorn.
shame. Yeah, we
Bullcorn.
don't buy it. We can see that beautiful shelf behind you with that well-lit deal there, and we're coveting it.
Sorry, but that's one I have not tasted.
We just did a review of that, and that is so powerful. It actually took me a while to even warm up to it. The first time I had that, I was like, eh. And then as I came back to it, it either opened up more or I was able to just experience it a little more.
It's really
Yeah.
young. I think it's just about 2.5, maybe 3 years old, but it is
Wow.
a slap in the face rye whiskey.
Now, coming back to this, I'm going to have to retouch on the forefront, but it has just a wonderful yet subtle finish to it. It kind of almost caught me with a floral note right at the end, like a last gasp, a little burst.
You guys are ahead of me because I haven't even tasted it yet. So
Oh, sorry. I took a sip as we were
Hmm.
going there. Mm.
Wow.
Hmm.
Cinnamon.
Oh, yeah.
Buttery, creamy.
sort of a mouth puckering mouthfeel there.
Wow.
Your mouth just sort of goes,
Yes, it does.
and I get the clove, the cinnamon notes that you expect to get. I get that ginger that you were talking about earlier, Scott,
Mhm.
and just really good balance all the way through. And then the finish just sort of gently fades away. You get just a touch of oak, not much,
Okay.
but the spices just sort of just gently fade away. I mean, I'm still getting it, and even as I'm talking, it still is dominating the palate.
It's the gift that keeps on
Yeah,
giving.
I love
Oh, yeah.
the linger, and this has definitely got a linger to it. Now you're right. I get that. That clove is really nice on the nose. Wow, I'm really getting the clove now that I've tasted it.
Now, I also get a little bit of nutmeg too, and just the honey and molasses that sort of keep it in balance. with the clove and the cinnamon.
Now, I do believe Scott was going to give this bottle to me.
Well, he always says that.
Well, he scores some really good ones, although I'm a little tentative sometimes.
No, I got to admit. Okay, so we just popped this bottle though and poured these maybe 15 minutes ago, so it hasn't had a lot of time to breathe. And I'm looking for some of the standard rye notes. I'm searching for it.
Well, you're looking for dill, probably. I didn't get a lot of dill.
No, I rarely ever get dill in ryes.
I mean, I wouldn't even say. I mean, just like I say, it's still early on. It hasn't had too much time to breathe. Not too much, or no black pepper.
Not in this one. No, I get it in other ryes, but not in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we agree.
This is a good one.
Yeah, and even as high proof as it is, it doesn't really have that alcohol sting or that burn, at least for me on the forefront.
No, not at all. I mean, this is one, I don't think you should drink it without water, but you can. I mean, it still is drinkable at full proof.
Yeah, very much. Very much.
Let me ask you, Mark, in the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, there is the Thomas H. Handy Sazerac rye.
Right.
And then there's a Sazerac rye.
The Sazerac 18.
Oh, okay.
The regular Sazerac rye is, I think, 3 or 4 years old, something like that. But then there's the Sazerac 18 that comes out once a year. And that's the one that's part of the antique collection.
Okay.
That's the others, and I'm going to remember this, George T. Stagg, the William LaRue Weller Wheated Bourbon, and the Eagle Rare 18.
Yes.
Yep.
Let me go through. Let's give a shout out to a lot of the people that are here with us and commenting.
Yeah, Scott will bring up a few comments that have come in.
Well, we'll just kind of go through and of course we start with Danny. Danny was here. Lana, Food Quig, Jesse.
Who, Beaver?
Yep. No, voicing.
Yep.
I haven't seen Beaver on here yet.
Now, Joe Kim's on, and I think you had a little shout out for Joe Kim. I don't know if did he send you a tweet or was it on your?
Yeah, he posts a lot on our Facebook page.
Yeah, he's real active. He's one of our Patreon backers too. Thanks, Joe.
We got Tolv Thomas is commenting, Claire, Triple Cap, Brian Hunter, Frank Lampard, 22 Catch 22, Gawkin, Lloyd Fink is here. That's the beard.
Anybody think we're completely off base on this one?
Not yet. As anybody, I'm trying to read here to see if anybody's calling shenanigans. There's just a lot of like, hey, and sup, baby, and hola. We got some stuff, but shout out to Mark again from Joe Kim after we'd mentioned him.
Omega 10, Amy Holland Woody. I don't know if her husband's here or not, but Amy is. Lewis Wells is with us.
Now, Barry Cat 22 says, Mark, keep up the excellent work. And then he says, oh, you guys too?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that was a nice backhanded compliment for you guys, I think.
I had lived that a little bit. I'm sure he meant it a little nicer than that.
Dram Dude is here. Adventures in Whiskey, Bobby Childs.
Now,
I know Bobby.
Yeah.
Daniel Willis, the real MFBTL. I don't know. I'm going to take time to try to figure out what that is.
I think the real MFBTL needs to explain that handle.
Definitely. Omega says, good luck, Brian.
Now Mark's leading us down a rabbit trail.
Yes, Mark will take us down.
Did you have time to watch the Tomatin live stream, Mark?
No, I did not. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh my!
We got a little PG-13 on that one. Try not to.
Usually, I'm the one that'll get us in a little bit of trouble. This time, it was this guy over here.
Yeah.
So, basically, all that was brought up was somehow in the midst of that. Never mind. You'll have to go tune into that show.
Yeah, you want to give them a reason to watch it.
That is right. Yeah, we don't want to spoil it. Now, coming back to that.
Oh, let me keep going here.
Wow, you're just going to read
names.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and finish.
It's very entertaining.
Don Sutcliffe is with us. Well, I'm sure the people like it. Okay, no, you guys. Bart doesn't want me to say your names.
Just reading a list of names. I don't know how. We'll get to them.
Don, go for it.
Yeah, good to see you, Don.
Robert Hendricks is here. Travis Faircloth.
Travis.
Pradeep. Pradeep's always tuning in.
He is.
Welsh Toro agrees that the 1776 barrel proof is good stuff.
Oh, he's both Welsh and yet bullish, kind of at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, that's.
If I haven't mentioned, Elijah Fontenot.
I'm sure he's thrilled with that pronunciation.
Yep.
Now, Mark, just to come back to the guest, I'd intended to ask you, and then we had a little hint of it beforehand, but very curious. I know you have a media background, but would you care to explain some of what that is and then how that ended up carrying over into WhiskeyCast?
Well, basically, I've been a broadcast journalist since the day I graduated from high school. I got my first radio job in Columbus, Indiana, the day I got out of high school in January of 1980, January 18th, 1980 to be exact. And I've worked in radio and television my entire career all around the U.S. And a few years ago, I got into whiskey. And a few years after that, Apple came out with the iPod, and we started talking about podcasts in 2005. And I thought, with a radio background, I might be able to have some fun with this. So I asked some folks on the Whiskey Magazine message board at the time, hey, if I produce this whiskey podcast, would you guys listen to it? The response unanimously was, what's a podcast? Well, a few months later, the first show came out, and it took off. I was excited when the first show got 100 downloads. And it just sort of snowballed from there to the point where in early 2010 or so, after I'd been laid off for the second time in 3 years from broadcast jobs during the recession, we decided to go ahead and see what we could do about making it full time. I turned the business side of things over to my business partner, and she took on the role of taking care of all the marketing and sales and dealing with the advertisers. And we're still doing it today.
Yeah.
We're in our 12th year.
Yeah, quite well. I went and when we first started listening to you before we even started the show. And then after we were about, I don't know, maybe 6 months into our show, I actually started like binge listening to your early episodes and seeing. Geez. I know. Some of our early viewed shows we don't like, but yeah, they were phenomenal. It was so nice to kind of see some of the growth as well. To be quite honest, I couldn't keep up. I think I caught up with like your first 2 years, and then I thought I need to just focus on what's coming out now.
There are guys, mostly in Sweden for some reason, that I still get emails from that binge listen to all 620 some episodes that have discovered the show, and they'll just take 2 weeks and binge listen nonstop. And I'm thinking, what do these guys do for a living? Because, I mean, yes, I work from home, but even I couldn't do this in 2 weeks.
Yeah. My deal was on the commuter when I was driving in or whatever. Then I would be like, oh, perfect time. But it was just, a lot of your interviews in particular was just, well, so many things had even changed from when you had started with some of the, and sadly, some folks have even passed. But I mean, it was just so nice to go back, and now that I kind of know, not the depth, we're still on our quest, but now that I know just a smidgen, it means so much more when I hear a certain interview or something. So,
the idea originally was to do this as an oral history. I wanted to get those stories.
Beautiful.
Back in the day and get those stories. One of my big regrets was that Booker No passed about 3 or 4 years before I started doing the show. So I never got to meet Booker, let alone interview him.
Right.
I did get to meet his widow, Annis, who passed last week. And of course, I've talked with Fred, his son, many times, and Freddie, his grandson. But I never got to talk to Booker. The fun thing was that Parker Beam was on the very first show back on November 12th, 2005. Of course, we lost Parker a few weeks ago.
Right.
And
now, how did you
that's
get
why I want to get these stories on get them to tell their stories while we can.
Sure. On your very first show, how did you get Parker?
It was at Whiskey Fest.
Okay,
in
that's
New
right.
York. I went up to Whiskey Fest, and Parker was doing a thing for Bernheim Wheat Whiskey that night. And Larry Cass, their longtime PR guy, was standing there, and he agreed to let me talk to Parker for a few minutes. And Parker was a complete gentleman, as you might expect. And then I made the mistake of saying, well, what's the mash bill for Bernheim wheat? And he just sort of looked at me. He goes, we don't talk about that. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Please don't take offense, sir. You get the drill. So
No, it's awesome.
But Parker was on the very first episode along with Dr. Jim Swan, the longtime Scotch whiskey and really world whiskey distilling consultant.
Right.
Who was working with Penderin at the time.
I remember that. Yeah, it's been, I mean, it's just, I know you had a question because I've got a few more questions for you. What'd you have, Scott? Did you have a comment come in you wanted to?
It was 22 Catch 22 pointed out that some of your first episodes were 6 to 7 minutes long.
Right, because I was doing them as I got fresh interviews. So I was doing 2 or 3 a week very early on. And that's before we settled into the routine of 1 a week. At the time, I'd get a fresh interview and I'd crank out a podcast that day.
There you go. Yeah, now you're into your 1 a week, and they always
Right.
you push them out on a Sunday.
Push them out Saturday night, Sunday morning, depending on what time zone you're in. But that was the general idea. At the time, I was doing podcasts, just trying to get things out as quickly as I could because of my news background. And I decided after a while that we're not going to be able to keep this up on a regular basis. So we settled on once a week.
Now, I know it was funny because one of the reasons, not the only reason, but Scott we were searching for a name before we started the show, and Scott came up with Scotch Test Dummies. But that resonated with me because I had heard you in some of the old episodes, and I'll never remember, and I can never pronounce, but there was a cadre of people from, I don't know if it was the Netherlands or whatever, but
God.
Yeah, was it Cologne?
It was Groningen.
Groningen, that's it. And I was in my car.
Groningen. It's where the Whiskey Festival Noord-Nederland is held every March. And I butchered this town's name for about 6 weeks in a row.
I can't say.
And I now have it because I got one of the guys who puts on that festival to tell me how to pronounce it right. It's Groningen.
This went on over like 2 or 3 episodes, and I would like pause your show and I would practice saying it, and there's some kind of noise in the throat that I can't do it. And so when he had said, what do you think about Scotch Test Dummies? I go, Dummies that's exactly it. We're never going to be, I'm just remember thinking, if you can't pull off some of the pronunciation, I know we're going to blow names of things. We won't understand what's in the mash bill. I said, that is perfect. And he was like, really? And I'm like, that's it.
I love it. I love the name, guys. I wish I'd thought of that a few years ago.
Well, you've got the great name, but yeah, thank you. Because, I mean, he said it and I said, boom, that is it. No. We're dumb. We're on a quest to get smarter.
I still mispronounce things. I mean, you try pronouncing some of these Scottish and Welsh place names.
We can't even, we're just open for mock, but that's why I just say we've been thrashed a couple times. I go, hey, we're dumb. Yeah, we're dumb.
Here's the key to getting through it.
Yes, sir.
Confidence. Say it. If you say it confidently, then nobody's going to hammer you for it. They'll think you know what you're talking about.
Well,
that's what
able
Bart
to do that?
does.
Yeah,
unless they really know their facts, in which case then you're screwed.
Well, that's what I do all the time.
Bart, I still get on Bart because he'll say stuff with such conviction.
Boom.
You know he's right.
Yeah.
And then you find out he wasn't even close.
Well, I was slightly off.
And he didn't even know. He just says it with such conviction.
I was so close. But then I'll throw out like the 5th string wide receiver for the Patriots 3 years ago, and he'll go, you're making that up. Spot on. That's all I'm saying.
Real quick.
Don't talk to me about the Patriots. Give me a break.
No, see, we're Broncos fans, but that was a heck of a Super Bowl.
It was a heck of a Super Bowl, but I'm still taking a little bit of grief because during the game I was tweeting out things of cars with bird crap all over them and suggesting that that's what the Falcons were doing to the Patriots. After the game, so.
Oh my goodness! See, we've got friends. The North Shore Whiskey Club is right out of Boston, and it's Shag and Heavy D. Yeah, and Joanne was all over that. The Patriots. Yeah, they come
I
back.
know. Yeah, they were all over me too, and I'm still catching grief for it. But I'm sorry, I can't.
Well, here's a couple.
Brady.
This is why you're so fun to listen to, though, is you will dip your toe into areas that a lot of people, especially, it surprised me because I know a few broadcast journalism folks, they'll steer away from anything controversial, and you'll just kind of dip your toe in.
I don't do it on the show politically. I keep politics out of the show.
True.
I keep politics out of the show and try to keep that balanced. On social media, yeah, I'll say a few things.
That is, I guess that is.
And I'll get a little snarky occasionally on the show when when I can back it up with facts.
Right.
But I got to be able to back it up to be able to do that.
Well, and then you did a real good job. There's such a fervor, left, right, center, whatever. But when you just brought up, which was Whiskey News, which was the signed bottle, Trump's signed bottle that was up for auction, that's just regular news. And it was amazing what happened with that.
Yeah, and I caught hell from a anti-Trump person for even mentioning it. And I'm sorry. There are collectors out there who collect presidential memorabilia, and there are whiskey collectors, of course, and you combine the two, and somebody paid a boatload of money for that bottle.
You bet. Heck, the second he became president-elect, whoever had that bottle was like, woohoo!
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's newsworthy regardless of what happens.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I cover the news regardless of fear or favor, and we're gonna make some people mad occasionally. I'm pretty sure this week's show got a few people in Chicago somewhat steamed, but I'll leave it. You listen to the show and you'll get what I mean from that. But
well, I love your news. I mean, quite honestly, you're my go-to person on the news.
Thank you.
You bet.
Here's an idea. Here's just to give you an idea of how big whiskey has gotten. You talked earlier about those 6 and 7 minute shows originally. The news segment alone in this week's episode is over 20 minutes long, just with news about new whiskeys and what's going on in the world. That's where we've gotten as far as what we've come to in whiskey, is that there is so much going on all over the place that you can just do the news for 20 minutes each week, let alone talk about going in depth and doing all the interviews.
Well, let me throw in real quick. 22 Catch 22 is the one that pointed that out, that your episodes used to be 6 to 7 minutes long.
Right.
But he's also said now, he says, ask Mark to interview Jim Rutledge and catch us all up.
I had Jim on the show just a couple months ago, about 3-4 months ago. He is still trying to find the financing to build the distillery. He wants to build the Rutledge distillery just outside of Louisville. He is still working on the financing for it. He did that crowdfunding thing last year that didn't quite work out. But because of the publicity that generated, he got a bunch of investors or potential investors that came forward and wanted to work with him. So he has not said anything more about his plans since then. But I know he is still putting the financing together to make that happen.
Wonderful. Now, would you say, and I don't know, would you say we're in the golden age of whiskey, or about to be, with all these distilleries that are opening, or where do you think we're at in comparison even to the past?
Here's where I think we are right now. In terms of the quality of the whiskey we're getting, this is the golden age, because the industry, the distillers have never been able to produce more whiskey of a consistent high quality on a regular basis. Even the cheap stuff is better than a lot of whiskeys were 30, 40, 50 years ago. Even the cheap stuff today, because they've figured out how to get the faults out of the distillate. They're putting good stuff into barrels, and I think we're getting good quality whiskey. My fear is that everybody and their brother who wants to make money in whiskey is building a distillery.
Right.
We've seen that happen before, and it usually doesn't end well.
Right.
This is unlike any other industry in that you've got to let the stuff sit for 3 or 4 years before you can sell it. Ford doesn't do that with cars. Apple doesn't do it with computers. But you got to do it with whiskey, and unless you start with a boatload of money, and I'm using boatload as a synonym for a term I'd really rather use, but I'm going to keep it PG.
Ton is what you were thinking.
Yeah. Unless you start with that ton of money first, you can't afford to let your whiskey sit for 3 to 4 or 5 years before it's really ready if you're a bourbon, or even longer if you're in Scotland.
Right.
And I'm afraid we're going to see a lot of these guys go broke before they can even release something.
Well, and that's what I'm intrigued by is you've got, the rising middle class in China. You got what's happening in India. So there's this whiskey demand that's there, and I know they're just laying down stock over and over and over. But I'm very, very curious to see. I mean, I'm excited from our standpoint on what we're doing. I'm sure you are with what you've got just with the 20 minutes of news. I mean, it's a wonderful whiskey time.
Yeah. There's stuff going on all over the world. They're making great whiskey in countries that you would never even thought of. Places like Sweden, Australia. The Australians are making some really good stuff.
Oh.
If the Australians get to the point in whiskey where they were in wine starting 15, 20 years ago, watch out, because look at all the Australian wine we drink.
Yeah, I think it's coming in.
Good stuff down there.
That was on a list of a question I had for you with your travels, with your knowledge, with the news and the press reports that come to you. Is there a distillery? Is there a whiskey out there? Is there a off the beaten path that you think is going to be, burgeoning or exploding a particular place or area? Maybe you just said it with Australia.
I think the Australians have a lot of potential because a lot of the distilleries down there are still too small to export their whiskeys. Mm-hmm. Once they start getting to the point where they can export their whiskeys and we start getting more of them, remember, they've already got good wine down there.
Right.
And they've got a good supply of wine casks for finishing.
Right.
I've had really good wine cask finished. The Sullivan's Cove French Oak won the World Whiskies Awards a couple of years ago. That's an unbelievably good whiskey. And if you give them the opportunity to build up some economy of scale and start producing enough to where they can export beyond what they need for their domestic demand, watch out, because they're making good stuff.
Are they aging quicker down there because it's warmer? I mean, I know Sullivan's Cove is Tasmanian.
No, because remember, Tasmania is down at the south end of Australia. The climate's very much like Scotland.
That's right. That is right.
So you're thinking Australia, you're thinking the northern coast of Australia up around Darwin, up near the equator. They're not making the whiskey up there. They're making it in Sydney, Melbourne. There's a good Tailwind, I think, is the distillery in Melbourne. And I could be wrong about that. I'm thinking Tailwind is near the Melbourne airport. That's about as far north as you get for distilleries in Australia. I'm pulling this off the top of my head right now, and I'm still not 100% good on Australian geography.
Sure.
But I know that the Tasmanian climate is very much similar to Scotland in a lot of ways.
Okay. Now, I know I stepped on Scott a couple times. What were you going to say, brother? Sorry, I got excited.
Is it my turn?
I got excited. I got excited on that.
Yeah. One thing I've been trying to get in here for a while with water.
Yeah.
I'm going to move back to the Thomas H. Handy.
Yeah.
With
we
water.
were talking about a whiskey at some point here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm leaning back, brother. I'm leaning back.
A nice honeyed sweetness came out with it, and then more bourbon notes, almost vanilla, and the cinnamon came out a little bit more.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have enough left to put any water into, so.
Oh, goodness.
Is that the last of your sample?
You know what that means? It means pretty soon we're going to have to move off to this Midleton.
Real quick, Mark.
I got a few drops here.
Okay.
Martin Calmer has asked how to access your weekly show.
Oh my!
It's available through most major podcast directories, iTunes, and of course at whiskeycast.com. We make all the episodes available for download there as well. And you can find it on iTunes.
And it's WhiskyCast, WHISKYCAST.
Goodness. Yeah, you don't want me
here's a little known hint. If you actually type in WhiskyCast with the E, it will take you to our website. We have both domains.
Oh, okay.
Genius.
So it points, because there's enough of a dispute there that we actually bought both domain names, and WhiskyCast does point to WhiskyCast.
Very smart. Once again, that must be your chief financial officer.
Yep. That's the boss.
That's the boss. She's a genius. All right, now I've been throwing. Did you have something else? I don't want to. You surely you
I'm
had.
scrolling through the comments. I
You're
was waiting
scrolling. Go ahead and do your comments. Come on, that was great conversation.
but I had to write this one down.
Yeah,
So I
This is
didn't
high
wrote it.
quality whiskey talk here. Come on.
Yes.
Bobby Childs has asked Mark, what are your most treasured bottles?
Okay. He's looking. Look at that. Look at the shelf. I'll be quiet so you can
Couldn't have asked any better, Bobby. This is the one of the few bottles I will not open. And I'm going to try to hold it as close to the camera so you can see this. It is a bottle of Enoch 12-year-old. But it's different than any other label you've ever seen. Because a few years ago, Enoch did this Your Enoch Moment promotion where they did for 12 folks a chance to have a bottle created with a photo with a Peter Arkle illustration of one of their photos. And they asked me and a couple of other writers to sort of seed the contest with our photos of our Enoch moment. This is my Old English Sheepdog Frizzle. And she passed last May. And I submitted for it the picture of Frizzle sitting beside me as I was laying in the hammock in the backyard. And they turned it into a one-of-a-kind bottle. And Peter Arkle added in the bottle of Enoch on Frizzle's head and the cork balancing on her nose and the glass in my hand. But this is the only bottle of its kind in the world. They did that and made a custom canister for me. And as I said, we lost Frizz last May while I was in Scotland on a distillery visit. And this is one bottle that I don't intend to open because I can always get more Enoch 12, but I can never replace this bottle.
There you go.
So that's one I would never open.
So how many bottles were made then with that on there? Just the one?
Just the one.
Wow.
Wow.
And they sent it to me as a thank you for taking part. And then each of the other writers got one with their picture, and then the 12 winners got one single bottle with their picture. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't get this replaced.
Yeah.
So, oops, I hope that goes up here.
Be careful.
Let's see. That's the one I would really never open. My store to standard rule is that, I mean, if you look at this wall, I got to admit, I got more whiskey than I will ever be able to drink in my entire life.
Yep. We've mentioned that on our end too.
And that's not all of it, to be honest with you. There's some behind you that you can't see behind the camera on the other side. But the standard rule around here is that, except for a couple of bottles like this with sentimental value, I'll open anything on the shelf. If somebody really wants to try it, if they're visiting, if they're over at the house and they want to try something and they've never tried it, and they know what they want to try.
Bingo.
I mean, I won't pour it for somebody who's going to put Coke in it or something like that.
Sure.
But if a Scotch or a whiskey fan is over here, I'll pour almost anything for them.
Wow.
If they really want to try it, because, I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I didn't pay for 90% of these bottles. They were sent as tasting samples.
Sure.
And I put the bottles up here after they're done.
Well, we don't have as good a collection as you've got, but right off the bat, I told Bruno I thought he'd listen to like a good business podcast or something, because he would get some unique things and he's just very generous with them. I'll leave it at that. And one thing we set off from the get-go is, I told him I've got plenty of stuff to drink. If he wants to keep everything that was sent to us, I said, you can have it. I don't care. Because my plan is, literally, we're having fun just doing the show.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And of course, that's not the way he operates either. So, but that was just one thing from the get-go. Now, if he gets super excited, I may tease him and say, well, I need that.
Well, what I've basically told everybody upstairs is that because we've been very fortunate to have had all this sort of come. I mean, I joke about the whiskey fairy stopping by the house a couple of times a week to drop off samples.
Right.
But I kid you not. I mean, I'll never be able to finish all this.
Sure.
I've told the family, when I go, y'all either have a hell of a party or I want a Viking funeral. And use it and put me on the boat, put me on the lake and set the boat on fire with the whiskey if you have to.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I suspect, though, that since my wife has discovered that she likes really good Irish whiskey, that she's going to go through and pick a few of these bottles out, and they're not going to get used for the Viking funeral or the party.
As she should. Well, she'll drink them in remembrance.
Or celebration.
Hey, Mark, Frank Lampert is asking, do you use the wine preserver gas on your open bottle?
Oh, wait a second. I just heard a comment from upstairs.
Oh.
I'm sure my second husband will enjoy them.
Oh, no. Look at that. That is perfect.
She's saying that as I'm opening her bottle of Midleton Berry Crockett Legacy to pour a
She's
dram.
a generous woman. Generous woman.
Hey, Mark, Frank Lampert was asking if you use the wine preserver gas on your open bottles.
But not.
No.
Yes.
No, I think, frankly, the only time I've ever had problems with oxidation were in sample bottles where the cap isn't as ironclad and as tight as these corks are. I've never had a problem with oxidation in regular bottles.
Interesting.
And I've got bottles that have been around for, I mean, I've got a Compass box up here from 2006. This magic cask they bottled for the LCBO in Ontario, which was their first bespoke bottling for any retailer. And I just opened this recently, and you can see this thing's been tapped into pretty well. I just opened this a couple months ago, and no signs of oxidation. I think if you keep it, as long as the cork holds a good seal, I don't think you have to worry too much about it. I wouldn't spend the money on the inert gases to preserve whiskey. I mean, I've never had a problem with it.
Sure. Very good. Now, Bruno is opening his Midleton as we speak. Now, again, I want to hand this to you and your wife. This has been sitting on your shelf for how long now?
I bought it just before Christmas of 15.
Okay. See, before Christmas of 15. I've seen it, but I've never even seen the box open before.
Yeah, and it's so this is 46% ABV, the Midleton Barry Crockett Legacy Edition. And
for those, let's explain. Barry Crockett was the longtime master distiller at Midleton. He's the guy that made all those Jamesons, the Redbreasts, the Powers for years that you never heard about. Barry retired a couple of years ago. They released this about a year or two before he retired. And they actually named the still house at Midleton, the original still house there, the Barry Crockett Still House when he retired.
Boom. That's why you are Mark Gillespie.
And he is one of the true gentlemen of the whiskey business anywhere. Ireland, Scotland, Kentucky, wherever you want to put it. Barry actually, after he retired, started doing some research at the university in Cork, using the Irish Distillers Archives to go back and piece together the history of distilling in the Cork area of Ireland.
See, I love that.
So he's still involved.
Beautiful. Well, I know I will talk over this, but do you want to do the tasting?
I was going to show, because we talked about the box, and it does come in. It's a wood box. I think most of them probably come in this, I would assume.
Oh, they all do.
Yeah. Okay. And it's hinged, and it opens up, and the bottle, of course, sits inside of it. And it's got a little...
Hold on. The bottle sits in the box?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
And it's got a little locked-in...
Sorry, he's going to hit me with something. I'm just happy.
I'm trying to hold it and do this at the same time. You could help instead of
this takes unique skill. I can't even do this half the time.
Right. Yeah.
So, but no, beautiful. And it's oak, an oak case, and great display.
I just figured you were going to spill what you'd poured there.
I'll tell you one quick story about the last bottle I bought of Barry Crockett Legacy. I very rarely ever take advantage of retailers when I see them doing something stupid. This time I did, because a couple of years ago I walked into a local retailer And I will tell you why I justified this to myself on moral grounds in a second. But they had screwed up because Barry Crockett Legacy sells for about $300 a bottle. They had screwed up and priced it as a 12-bottle case instead of a 3-bottle case, and we're selling it for $89 a bottle.
Oh, Lordy.
I could have said something, but on the shelf immediately above said Midleton Barry Crockett that they had mispriced was the Van Winkle 12-year-old Lot B bourbon, not even a Pappy,
Sure.
that sells for $70 MSRP from Buffalo Trace and Van Winkle. And they were selling this sucker for $700 a bottle. So I did not feel guilty about saying, yeah, I'll take that. That Barry Crockett Legacy looks good. I'll take that.
Bam. Bam, baby. Beautiful.
And that was a certain business partner's, I believe, Mother's Day gift or a birthday gift or something like that.
Oh, you look at you, little sly devil. Now this has got, you've poured yourself, Mark, right? You've poured this?
Oh, are you kidding?
Let's lend off to you on the nose. This is my first time, but I'm liking it already. It's subtle and sweet.
It is very subtle, very sweet. This is an Irish blend. This is not a pure pot still. Wait a second. I'm going to look at the bottle because I want to double check this because the Legacy might have been a pot still.
Okay. I was just going to nod and assume you were correct.
This is a pot still.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Because the Midleton Very Rare that Barry produced for many years is a blend. This is a pure pot still. So you're going to get some more spice on this one. But it's going to be subtle because remember, these are triple distilled, so it's a little more refined than the typical bourbon or Scotch. It's going to be a little subtler because they've taken some of the meat out of it. But you tell me what you get because I know what I'm getting. I want to know what you get.
All right. The oddest thing, and I'm just saying what came to mind, was I almost got like a sugar cookie dough.
Yeah, that's good.
Which was very surprising to me. Sugar cookie dough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get almost like I almost want to say there's like a musk somehow in there, but I can't really define what it is. What do you got, Bruno? Maybe, and then vanilla.
Yeah.
Vanilla and honey. Citrus.
Vanilla, honey. I love that sugar cookie dough tasting note. That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's a good suggestion. Marshmallow cream. What do you think of that one?
Yes. Yep. Definitely that cream, and I see what you're saying with the marshmallow.
Wait a second. Okay. If you're going to make comments, then get your butt down here and do it in camera. Otherwise,
come on camera.
What?
Give us a cameo. Yeah, tell her to give us a cameo.
She won't do it. She won't.
Come on, lady. Did she yell out a tasting?
But she heard the marshmallow cream thing, and she goes, "Are you crazy?"
Oh.
That's the fun thing about this is that there are no wrong answers.
Yes, it's
because everybody has their own perceptions.
Yes, sir. What
Maybe
else?
an almond.
Maybe a vanilla cream might be more than the marshmallow cream, but a vanilla cream. Almost like a creme brulee.
Right.
Type thing with the toasted vanilla.
Exactly. That is nice. That is a very unique. You know, you're right, because that muskiness I get is almost a warmth in the smell, which is hard for me to describe. And it's almost like the smell is warm.
Like a wet hay almost.
Right. Exactly.
Like wet straw.
Wow. All right, now I'm going to sip this.
Scott's typing again, so.
Yeah, I know. As soon as and he's a loud typer, baby. That guy just pounds away.
Hell, I can hear him here.
I try to do it slow, and I just can't. I can remember in high school we had to take typing, and I thought, why do I have to take this class? I will never use it.
Was it a manual?
Huh?
Manual typewriter.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. In middle school,
you guys are going to laugh.
Yeah.
I write for a living. 2 fingers.
Really?
I can do two-finger typing faster than most people can do it with.
Wow. Wow. Hold on.
All right.
I'm getting like a tangerine.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like a mango or papaya almost.
Right. Wow. I didn't expect the fruit flavor there.
Yeah. That's what makes this unusual, is that the pot still whiskeys, you get a little bit of spice, but you also get a lot of fruitiness that is really good.
Very much so. Yeah, I didn't expect that to come across at all.
It's very full. I mean, just a little sip, it really permeates the mouth and takes over and lets you know you got something in there.
Almost like a little bit of a baked orange. If you put like oranges in with the turkey at Thanksgiving and you smell that orange afterward.
Yes. Wow.
You like it, huh?
I do. Isn't that? I mean, I was not expecting these like unique fruit flavors. You're right. The orange, like a baked orange coming across. Wow.
Scott, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say that's got to be one of the fullest Irish whiskeys that I've had. Non-sherry casked.
Yeah.
For just a standard, I'm guessing it's just probably an oak.
Wow.
I think it's probably blended from several different types of casks, because Billy Layton, their master blender, has a habit of doing that.
Exclusively matured in American bourbon barrels.
Okay. Like I said, this bottle stays upstairs most of the time. I never get to play with this one. So it's been a couple of years since I get to actually look at these things and taste it.
Now, is the boss just off camera listening, or is she actually watching like upstairs?
No, they can hear me upstairs because they're directly above.
I gotcha.
So she heard me marshmallow cream and going,
hey, tell her to watch us on YouTube. We need the extra viewers.
Well, I should explain. I have to give her credit because she is actually the one who taught me how to nose.
Really? Say more.
Well, because she's a great cook. So I was nosing all the stuff that she was cooking and nosing the spices, following her through the grocery store, nosing the produce and nosing the herbs and nosing the stuff that comes out of her garden. That's where I learned how to pick up all the aromas.
Sure. So as you picked it up, because that's one of the first things that I kind of got was, when I taste something, I don't try to interpret it. I just literally say, this is what I got. And yeah. I remember I had the regular Amrut. No, the Amrut peated, I think. I can't remember. Which one has the banana flavor?
That was the peated.
The peated.
Yeah.
And I remember
I have a bit of banana to me, but the peated has a cooked banana.
Okay. I was like, I mean, I wrote it down and I was like, I'm insane. And I usually don't even go check what other people have listed, but I thought, Scott's going to just mock me all day long if I say banana. And as soon as I looked and saw that on there, and from then on, the second I get something, even if it's totally weird and unique to me, it's in there.
Yeah. It's basically, every one of us has a different sense of smell. Essentially, smells are nothing more than the mental memories of stuff that you grew up with. One of the examples I like to give is I'll get a note occasionally of coconut, and it reminds me of the coconut cream pie my grandmother used to make at Thanksgiving.
Bingo.
And that's or stuff like lemon meringue pie. I'll get like the really tart lemon that's in a lemon meringue pie, and not necessarily a lemon zest or things like that.
That is right.
Because I had relatives who made lemon meringue pies a lot when I was a kid.
Bingo. Whenever I get brown sugar, what do I say, Scott?
Brown sugar, clumpy, old, like Grandpa's old clumpy. Brown sugar.
Grandpa would make oatmeal and he'd break out this old brown sugar deal that was all dried, and I would pull out these brown sugar nuggets and throw them in my oatmeal. And whenever I get brown sugar, it like takes me back to when I was 6.
Right. When I get pipe tobacco notes, it reminds me because my grandfather smoked a pipe when I was a kid. That's where I get that pipe tobacco note from.
Me too.
I've never smoked anything in my life, but that's where I get that note from, is smelling the smoke from his pipe.
Exactly. Yep. I've been this guy does cigars every now and then, but I don't smoke at all. And but my grandfather was trying to stop cigarettes and started smoking pipe tobacco until he finally got himself off of all smoking. And now that's exactly what I get when I get those subtle tobacco flavors.
Yeah.
So now, what else you got here, Scott? I know I've been yakking.
No, I was going to point out a couple things on my end when you were talking about how your wife taught you to nose. I was more, and probably Bart, you as well, just on the job training. I mean, you go back, we've been doing our video reviews for a little over 3 years now. We're coming up on our 300th episode. And when we first started, I would get maybe 2 things on the nose. And now, you know, depending 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 different things. And then on the palate as well, it has just developed over time. The more that I've tried, you know, and stick with, I mean, or just the more that you try,
the more you do it, the more you learn.
Yeah, exactly. So, and at first I used to get 2 or maybe 3 things on the palate. If I had a peated whiskey, that was all I would get was peat, and I couldn't get anything else. And my palate is developed now, and I might get 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 things even on the palate.
It also depends on what you've eaten that day. I know
that too.
If we do something really spicy or garlicky for dinner, I'm not going to get any notes that night. I don't even try. I'll wait till the next day to try something because I know I'm not going to be able to get a good, an accurate reading.
Right. Very much.
I was going to point out also, all whiskey is for drinking.
Oh yeah.
And yes, I did have this sitting in the background and it hadn't been opened. And you pointed it out and you said, well, if we got time, let's open that one up. So I did.
Thank you.
That was good. Now, a couple more quick questions for you.
Okay.
I'm curious. You are on the road so much. About how many days are you on the road out of the year? I mean, is it a third or
no,
are you
not
at?
even close. No.
Okay. Really? It feels like you're always traveling.
Yeah, because there are times when during certain portions of the year, usually August, September, October, there's a lot of festivals and a lot of things going on. So yeah, there are times of the year where I'm on the road a lot. But then there are points where I'm not on the road I'm at home for 3 or 4 months at a time.
Okay.
It depends on what's going on. If I might spend maybe a month away from home, all told, during the year.
Okay, that's not
And
bad
that
at all.
doesn't count the trips up to New York because I live 90 miles from New York. That doesn't count running into New York for tastings and things like that.
Gotcha. Now that feeds into Haddonfield. When is Haddonfield going to get wet? I got
here's the thing. There is actually no law that bans alcohol sales in Haddonfield. What they've done, though, is that after Prohibition ended, local governments in New Jersey were given the power to approve liquor licenses as long as the state signed off. Haddonfield, at the time after Prohibition, was dominated by the Methodist and Quaker churches and never signed off on it. We actually have wine sales in Haddonfield now because a couple of years ago, the state legislature, in its infinite wisdom, overruled all the local governments in an effort to promote the New Jersey wine industry and allowed the wineries to set up remote locations under their retail sales license that they had for their winery, where they can essentially rent space in a coffee shop or a restaurant and be able to sell their wines by the glass or by the bottle. And we have about 3 or 4 of those in Haddonfield. So technically it is somewhat wet. It's not completely dry, but you can't buy it. You can't buy spirits. You can't buy beer. But I've got 3 pubs within walking distance and at least a couple of liquor stores if I wanted to get them. And there's pretty much either a bar or a liquor store at almost every entrance to town. Every main road that comes into town, with a couple of exceptions, has at least one.
Huh. Well, there you go. I just
The
had to ask.
historical thing you got to point out, though, is that one of the big things we like to brag about in this town is the Indian King Tavern. which is now a historical museum. But on July 4th, 1776, when the founding fathers signed in, when they announced the Declaration, shortly after they signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, about 15 miles from here,
Billy.
they all had to haul ass out of Philly before the British soldiers got to them and hung them for treason. So they were all running over to New Jersey. A bunch of them wound up at the Indian King Tavern getting hammered to celebrate the Declaration of Independence, and yet I can't buy a damn bottle of whiskey in this town.
They would be pissed. See, that's
so that's the fun. That's the whole fun thing about this whole town.
I love it. I love it.
I should also know that there are certain people in this town that are not happy with our mentioning each week that it is the charming yet regrettably dry town of Haddonfield.
What's the population of Haddonfield?
About,
do you know?
8,000, 9,000 people.
Okay, so it's a nice, quiet little community. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Now, I think I forgot the charming, but my little 30-second video intro on YouTube leading up to today's show, I said Mark Gillespie from Whiskey Cast, and also the regrettably dry town of Haddonfield, New Jersey.
There's a certain amount of colonial charm, but
I love it.
We'll leave it at that because I got to live here.
Yes, I am sure. Now, I'm sure we got some questions coming in, but one other thing I had to ask: you were on the forefront of this whole like whiskey wave. Do you have any plans? Are you looking to? I mean, I love you've got great high def videos. I've watched a lot of your stuff with John Glazer.
Thank you.
Do you have any plans or any changes, or what's new for you, or are you right on the path that you want to be right now?
We are looking at a bunch of new things. We have some new projects in development. I'm not going to say anything more about it right now because we've talked about our Whiskey Cast University project for a while, which is going to be an education project. And we're still in work. We're still finishing up the first course in it, but I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to say anything more until we actually have it ready because I want to surprise people with it.
Okay.
We've been working on updating our mobile app for a couple of years now, and that's fallen behind. We are working as diligently as we can to keep up with everything because, frankly, there's so much going on in the whiskey world these days that it's hard for a small business to keep up with it. We compete with the publishers that do do the great magazines and do a lot of great work, but they have staffs of freelancers around the world to cover the industry for them. Here, it's me and the boss upstairs.
Sure. Now, you didn't mention writing, but I know you've talked to Fred Minnick and a lot of other authors. Have you ever thought of writing a book yourself?
That is one of the projects we have in store, is an ebook project that will be the first Whiskey Cast University thing. It'll be an ebook course that will be focused around ebooks that'll be available for your iPad and things like that. Rather than a hard printed book, because we can update the ebooks a lot easier. And frankly, it's a lot easier to carry one around on an iPad or an iPhone than it is to carry around a physical book anymore.
Sure. We got a couple
of
Dummies
things we're working on. And I don't want to go into it a whole lot more right now because it's one of those things we've talked about for the last couple of years, and every time we get close to releasing it, they change the technology and add new things, and we want to update to make sure that we can meet the demand and come up with the most technologically advanced book that we can.
That's about like asking some distiller what their mash bill is.
Touche.
My fault. No, I didn't know you were that close to this. I mean, I was curious where you were headed, but do me a favor, when you get close or after you release, come on with us, 2, 3, 4 weeks afterward, and we'll
Hey, anytime you guys want to do this, I'm up for it.
Oh, I'm loving it. Now I'm going to shut up or this guy's going to kill me. I know you got some questions coming in from the people.
Let's do it.
Whiskey in the Six asks, ask Mark if he's tried Puny, Puni. It's
The
the
Italian
first.
whiskey.
Yep, there you go.
I have not yet. Part of the problem with the little small distilleries outside the U.S. is getting the samples into the U.S. I've exchanged emails with the folks at Puny, and I can't wait to try this stuff because I've heard some good things about it, but I have not been able to try it yet. I'm really looking forward to it.
And let's go back a little bit. We had a lot of comments, a lot of questions come in asking us what our scores were and what we thought of the Thomas H. Handy.
Okay.
I hate to score it based on sitting here, this quick sample that I had. It's close to a 90. And I said, I don't know that I would search it out.
Really?
It was good. And if you could find it for the suggested retail price of $90, it's good.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of those bottles are going for $300 to $500 on the aftermarket. I don't think
That's crazy.
I would have to pass.
And keep in mind, the aftermarket is pretty much illegal anyway.
Yes.
100%. Now I'm with Scott.
I have heard, and Fred Minnick actually, you mentioned Fred. Fred actually mentioned something about this earlier today. There's a bill in Kentucky that would allow licensed bars and retailers to be able to buy bottles of vintage collectible whiskey from individuals.
Oh, really?
And be able to make them available in bars and to resell them.
In Kentucky, you said?
In Kentucky only.
Wow. Now why you mentioned,
because right now, if you've got a collectible bottle that your grandfather had of some old vintage Scotch or some vintage whiskey of any kind, it's illegal for you to sell it yourself.
Sure.
Yes.
Right.
Unless you go through a legitimate auction house.
Right.
Or a licensed auction house. But if Kentucky does this, and I know there's some other states that would like to do this, where you could actually, where they would be able to sell it directly to a bar or to a retailer and get some cash for it, cash out of it, and then have that be available for some collector. And I think that's a great idea.
I agree.
They would have to report it to the state alcohol beverage commission, what they did and who they bought it from. But that provides a venue for those who have collectible bottles to be able to do something with them legally, because that's always been the problem, is that you can't really resell a bottle once you've got it because it's illegal.
Right.
Well, but the only problem I would say right off the bat with that is why limit it to or bars and restaurants? I mean, why would the
because they have a license to be able to do something with it, and they've already been vetted by the ABC boards.
Gotcha.
So that could almost drive up your collector's market, though, or the people, the stuff behind the scenes going on through distributors and all that. People.
Well, the problem is the wholesalers in Kentucky are apparently opposed to this because they don't want retailers and bars buying from anybody but them. But this law, this bill that's being pending in Frankfurt, would essentially carve out anything that's not currently available through a distributor. So if you can't find, so if you've got a 10-year-old bottle of Pappy 23 or whatever that's not available through a distributor, theoretically you could sell it to a bar in Louisville, and they can sell it to their customers and sell drinks from it.
Gotcha. Now, sidebar question. We've tried to reach out to Fred because I love Fred's book, Bourbon Curious.
Yeah.
If you run into Fred, tell him to respond to our messages because I would love to have him on the show. I think he's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. Well, the only thing we did DM him on Twitter to see if he wanted to be on the show, and we haven't heard back from him.
We haven't dug deep. But
I'll lean on Fred. Fred's a friend of mine. I'll lean on him for you.
Awesome. Awesome. Bring Fred on. Now, another question. Sorry, because I'll talk too much.
No,
another questions?
There's been a lot.
There's a ton. I see.
Let's get these questions in. This is the cool part.
Yeah, bring him in. Bring him in. He's scrolling. He's scrolling.
Let's go back to, do we have any more notes on Barry Crockett that we want to give out? Or, I mean, do we have anything else that's come up but we haven't covered?
Well, keep in mind, this is made from a mix of malted and unmalted barley, so you're not going to get as much maltiness out of this as you would, say, from a single malt.
Now, say Lloyd Fink, a little bit ago, he pointed out that he had the Cooper's Crows, and he loved it.
Yeah.
It was good, but this is a lot fuller and a lot richer.
Yes.
Almost a lot of the same notes probably as the Cooper's Crows, but almost more. You can tell I think it's aged quite a bit longer.
Yeah. I will tell you that the Cooper's Crows has been quite a favorite around this house. I got one of the first bottles of it when it was available. They sent me a bottle of it to taste. My youngest daughter came home from Boston College. She is now 21. And during the space of most of a weekend, of a few days home during the holidays or whatever, the first bottle of Cooper's Crows disappeared. I went out and bought a second one.
Well, I can see
that
it.
sucker is sitting empty upstairs right now.
It looks like there were some over your right shoulder.
I have the blender's dog and the distiller's safe, the two versions that are not available in the U.S.
Yeah, I was going to say we haven't
seen those.
That's because they only sold the Cooper's Crows in the U.S. so far. The other two in the Whiskey Makers series are not sold in the U.S. I brought those back from Ireland.
Oh goodness! If you're adopting, we're open.
Yeah,
I will tell you, our youngest daughter Tessa she just turned 22 a few days ago, but last year on her 21st birthday, she had spent earlier that year. She had spent 6 weeks in Ireland with at a university program. The first thing she did on her 21st birthday was go out and buy a bottle of Redbreast 12-year-old with her own money, and then help the store owner sell the other 3 bottles in stock by convincing other customers to buy them.
You bet. Now you have 2 daughters, right? Both 3. Do all of your daughters work on the show? I know you've mentioned them before.
No, they help out. They've helped out with various things at various points. They don't do anything officially for the show right now, but they've all helped out with things with sending out. We do these things where we've sent out glasses to whiskey clubs and stuff like that, and they've helped with some of that stuff and packaging it up to send out and things like that. Tessa is the smart one of the family. Literally, she's 3.9999 GPA at Boston College, headed for med school. She and the boss upstairs worked on the algorithms for some of the statistics we use.
Wow. I thought you were going to
math person by any stretch of the imagination. So they worked on the stats that we provide for our advertisers.
I thought you were going to tell me she was going to be a chemical engineer, which would lead her right down the path, baby.
Oh, no. She wants to go to med school, but I will tell you this. Part of that Irish trip, she went over a few days early, and she got to spend a day or so at Midleton Distillery with my wife as part of doing the Irish Whiskey Academy at Midleton. They spent a lot of time in the laboratory afterwards with one of the scientists at Midleton and picked up a lot of knowledge.
I bet.
So that really brought home the chemistry point. I wish I had paid attention in high school chemistry. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have paid a hell of a lot more attention.
You want to put me to sleep, you start talking chemistry.
I slept through my entire high school year of chemistry. Poor Mrs. Skirvin, my high school chemistry teacher, poor woman, I would come in 2 o'clock every afternoon, next to last period of the day, and come down and go, put my head down on the desk. She allowed me to get through the class with a C-.
Wow, pleasant woman.
Yeah. And if I'd known then that I was going to be covering the distilling industry for a living, I would have paid a lot more attention.
Okay, let's finish up real quick, and then we'll go to some questions.
Okay.
Let's finish up with
nice
the very
sweet brown sugar, a little bit of molasses, not much, and just I love this one.
It's delicious.
I'll give it a 92.
Wow. I'm with you. I don't like scoring when I'm just having it, but this is a phenomenal dram, I will tell you.
Yeah, usually I guess I don't. And that one I just threw right out.
Yeah, my tasting notes are at the website, and I'm not even going to tell you what I scored it.
It is. I'll just tell you, it's delicious.
Yeah.
It surprised me with those fruit notes. I didn't expect it in there. It almost feels more robust than what a normal triple distillation does for me. Usually.
Yeah.
Now I'll tell you this, I got, I think this one was only like $210 when I bought it.
Not
wow.
bad.
Wow.
Not bad.
I need more. Pour me some more.
If you like here's the deal though with it. If you like Irish whiskeys, if you don't like any cask finishing, I mean, because it's ex-bourbon barrels.
Yeah.
It's vanilla, it's citrus, it's sugar. A
lot of the Irish whiskeys, though, a lot of the Redbreasts, except for the Lustau edition, don't have finishes.
Mm-hmm.
Lustau was done all 100% in sherry casks, was finished in sherry casks. But a lot of the pot still whiskeys are not finished. But what they are is blended between bourbon and a little bit of sherry, maybe a little bit of port cask. So they're blended between those.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're not looking, this is, like I say, though, still one of the most full, most rounded
right
Irish whiskeys that I've had. There's no special casking to it, so don't expect any of those, other influences coming in on it.
Yeah.
Well, what made you buy this? Because I'm surprised.
I saw it, and I knew the Barry Crockett edition was.
So you just knew it was a rare, limited.
Yeah.
Okay.
And $210 is a good price. You got a good deal.
And Scott is way more of a collector. You lean collector. I mean, you really do.
Yeah.
And he'll surprise me with when he does open something up. Whereas I'm going to be quite honest with you, I don't lean toward collector status at all. I want to open it. I want to drink it. I want to experience it. I don't want to look at it. So
I like to say I'm not a collector. I'm just behind in my drinking.
You're phenomenal, sir.
Thank you. We got any more questions?
Yes.
Yeah, bring him in.
Probably several, because I've held here on Gawkin, and he asks, does Mark remember the old granddad stream when crossing the Walt Whitman Bridge in early evening?
What?
I was hoping you knew what he was talking about. Sounds like you two hung out.
I got to admit, I don't remember this one.
Does Mark remember the old granddad stream when crossing the Walt Whitman Bridge in early evening?
Goodness. Sounds like you guys
were a refresher on this one because
add in.
Because normally I drive across the Walt Whitman because that's a bridge, that's a regular toll bridge with no subway on it, so I'm not drinking when I cross the Whitman.
I like how I called it the Whitman. What else you got coming in?
I got to scroll back up. It went
I'm
down
so
to the bottom.
That's one of the bridges between New Jersey and Philadelphia, for the record.
Okay. I'm so far behind on comments that I haven't even been paying attention. Tell Mark Taylor Ham with an exclamation point. Taylor Ham. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
I don't know. Tell Mark Taylor Ham. That comes from Dan E. Sorry. I thought maybe that would mean something to you.
Taylor Ham.
And then Scotchology says that doesn't sound cryptic at all. but then Graham Dude says was about to say the same thing. So I don't know which one's replying to who there.
Taylor Ham. I heard of Taylor Swift, but not Taylor Ham.
There you go. What else you got, Scott? Let's give.
I'm still scrolling down, trying to catch up.
Through. Here's the deal. There's been tons of comments, but some of them are within their own. It's like they're the guys are commenting back and forth amongst themselves. So, all right, I inadvertently dug in to some of your future plans, which I didn't know anything about. Have you? And I don't want to go into those now, but have you teased those a little bit, or is this just something you're working out in house?
Well, we've teased this Whiskey Cast University thing. There's a teaser on the website for it. I'm going to be honest with you. We've been working on this thing for 3 or 4 years now, and it's a project that's been in the works. But over that time, we've both lost a parent, and we've had a bunch of stuff go on, and we get wrapped around the axle and trying to deal with running a daily business, just like any other small business.
Sure.
So we've gotten to the point where it's almost done. We're putting the finishing touches on Whiskey Cast University. It will be there. And hopefully very, very soon.
Cool.
And that's about the best I can say.
Now, when you were doing all the broadcasts, obviously you said you did radio and TV. You were on
Right.
TV as well. You'd mentioned before we went on air you were in Houston. Where else have you worked media-wise?
Oh, boy. You want the whole resume here. Let's see.
Throw out that CV, baby.
After college, worked all through commercial radio through college. After college, 6 months in Southern Illinois doing television, morning news anchor, producer, reporter, third string weather nerd for $4 an hour.
Woo!
You think you make money in media? No, we don't go into media to make money. Left that job after 6 months to go to radio to make more money in Indianapolis for the big news station in Indianapolis. Okay. Overnight anchor there, lasted 6 months. They fired my butt.
No.
Because there was a person they wanted to hire who was under contract at the time. They waited for her to non-compete to expire. Boom.
Gotcha.
Moved to Detroit, did 6 months of traffic reports for radio stations all over Detroit. Then did 6 months of morning news for the local country music station in Detroit. They fired my butt. Went back to doing traffic reports in Houston for 6 months. Then got a gig at the All News radio station in Houston, lasted there 5 years. They did not fire my butt. Then went to Anchorage, Alaska, to the best job I've ever had at KTUU, the NBC station in Anchorage, where I was the lead political reporter and business reporter, did weekend anchoring from time to time, and a bunch of other stuff, covered the Iditarod 1 year. Stayed in Anchorage from 1991 through 1998, and I would go back again in a heartbeat if I could.
Wow.
Left that, went to come back down to New Jersey because family reasons. I won't go into any other details other than that.
Sure.
But wound up at MSNBC as a writer for a few months as a freelance writer, then joined a major polling and public research company, the name of which you would know immediately, but I'm not going to say it. Lasted there 6 years until 2006. And they moved I was running their broadcast operations and producing all of our content for CNN and radio stuff and things like that. They decided to relocate the studio to Washington and ended the contract with CNN to do polling and decided they didn't need me anymore. Got a job at Bloomberg Television, 3 years, assignment editor, producer, writer, behind the scenes, copy editor, little of everything. And then during that whole period, I started Whiskey Cast. And then from 2010 on till today, this is what you got.
Beautiful. Now, I've got to ask you, you've intrigued me with Anchorage. Was it the job itself, or was it the location that would make you go back?
It was the greatest place we've ever lived.
Really?
Because we lived on the mountains outside of Anchorage. We had black bear occasionally try to get into the house. We had nesting bald eagles in the front yard.
Wow.
The moms in the neighborhood would have a telephone tree when the bears were coming down the hills or the moose were in the neighborhood. You actually had we couldn't send the kids to school in the morning because there were moose in the driveway. And I got to cover stories like you would not believe all over the last frontier. And we didn't worry about ratings because we were kicking everybody else's butt. We did stories the way that they should be told, where you didn't do a minute and a half of just television news nonsense. Yeah. We actually went in depth and told stories.
Thank God. All we get now is...
They still do it that way up there today. And I would go back in a heartbeat, but I'm having too much fun doing this.
Sure. Beautiful.
I don't want to cover politics anymore.
Real quick, Gawkin clarified. He said it was the old granddad stream from the distillery, and that there used to be in the 70s a distillery beside an old granddad distillery besides the Walt Whitman Bridge.
Not that I know of. Might be in Philadelphia. There was the old Philadelphia distilling plant in Philadelphia that was making. Oh, geez, I'm whiffing on the name of this now, but there was a major distillery in Philadelphia, South Philadelphia, that was near the Whitman Bridge.
Cassers?
Well, they were making Liberty whiskey, and which is the brand was revived by Philadelphia Distilling right now. Andrew Owerta's folks, or no, I'm sorry, not Andrew Owerta. Oh, geez, I'm whiffing on the name.
You're good.
I've got the stuff in my records, but I'd have to go back and look it up. But it's Liberty Whiskey was one of these whiskeys that was really popular for years and years, and one of the micro distilleries in Philadelphia has recently revived it. But they had this great big distillery down in South Philadelphia near the Whitman Bridge, and I think that's what you're talking about. But I don't remember National Distillers or Beam at the time making whiskey in Philadelphia. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I don't remember it.
Now we've got Lewis Wells who said, yep, we used to escort kids because of moose. So I don't know if he lived up there as well, but he knows of which you speak. Now, I grew up in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah.
We didn't have moose. Yeah, a lot of elk. I scared a black bear inadvertently out of our fenced-in chain link trash can area once. That was interesting. I hear moose can be way more dangerous than elk.
Oh yeah, moose are killers.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard they're very big.
They stomp, especially if you get between a mama moose and the calf. But here's the thing with moose. One, they're stupid. They like to walk out in the middle of the road. And it's 1,800 pounds of top-heavy beef that is about 4 foot off the ground, and when you hit one, it slides up the hood of your car.
Yes.
Because you take the legs out from under it.
Yep. That's
now,
where elk were
the fun
dangerous.
thing about moose is that up in Alaska, the state troopers up there have a list of all the food banks. If you hit a moose on the highway, you don't get to keep the meat. You call the state troopers. They call the food bank next up on the list to come get the moose and harvest it.
Wow.
And field dress it on the site and give it to the food banks.
Beautiful.
So you don't get to hunt with a car. But yeah, I came close a couple of times to hitting them.
Wow. Yeah, I came close to taking out a bunch of elk once. It is not a pleasant experience. No. I know exactly. Now I know we're way over and we don't want to keep you too long. So
screw it. I work from home. I set my
All right, I'm good. I just
go on as long as you want.
Oh, sweet. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I got the boss is Barry Crockett here, so
thank you. Well, that means I got to pour some more of Scott's Crockett.
A couple people, Mark, have asked what your favorite whiskey of 2016 was.
Oh, love your Crockett.
2016. Because you say you had to qualify it because I get the question a lot about my favorite whiskey, and I said I haven't found it yet because I'm still exploring.
There you go.
2016.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have the notebook here.
Mine was Octomore 6.3.
Hold on. Now I'm impressed. He keeps a written notebook.
That's because he said he hasn't figured out these.
You put all your notes.
Devices.
I know. You put all your notes.
I
write them all down because if the website crashes, I'm screwed.
God, I love the notebook.
No, it's called the Cloud. It's called the Cloud. It's always there.
I love the notebook. That's what I aspire to.
But see, he could go to his device and he could put in there best whiskey of 2016 and pop
got
right
it.
up.
Brook-Laddie Black Art 5.1.
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, I scored 97 points. It was the highest score I gave out in 2016.
Now, see, we haven't had that one.
We had the
because it's just coming out it's coming out March 1st.
Wow.
I got to taste it back in November with Adam Hinnett in New York. At they kindly poured me some. It's just being released at the end of it. Just being released in March for about $400 a bottle.
Yes, I was going to say they jumped the price on that.
No, that's actually the same price as the last edition.
Really? I got it. Well, what did I get at $300? I got one at $300.
It was going $295,
and then I got another for $280.
Okay, because $399 is what they're selling it at. Is what they've had. The last was the MSRP for the last one. So you got a deal.
Okay. Okay.
But Black Art 5.1, I scored that 97 points, and that was the first 97 I've given out in a couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now I got to get it because I saw that price come up because I picked up, I think it was a 4.1 for 300. And then a buddy of mine.
But $3.99 is the U.S. price for it, and I would say it's worth it.
Yeah. I got a buddy of mine that runs I'm a huge board gamer.
Oh my God. I knew you had
it had to come up. This buddy of mine owns he runs a board game company, lives in New Jersey.
We've heard you were from Colorado.
Hold on. I got it. Stephen Bonacore. Stephen Bonacore
Where's your wife
in Jersey.
Where's your wife
My wife's Puerto Rican. That makes me
That's
world.
the three things. He's got to work into every episode.
Well, now you're complete.
Well, yeah, but I got a
It only took us an hour and a half, didn't it, Scott?
That's right, an hour and a half. Stephen Bonacore lives in Jersey. He owns a board game company.
Whiskey in the Six points it out. There it is.
Oh, come on. Whiskey in the Six is Canadian. He's a boot.
And what's wrong with Canadian? I'm sorry.
I love Canadians. One of my best friends.
Joanne McInnes named me an honorary Canadian. Give me a break.
Who did?
Joanne McInnes, the whiskey fabric person.
Well, we hope at some point she'll do that to us.
Yeah. We didn't get that on New Year's. She was with us on New Year's Day. We did a live stream with her.
All we got to do is tell her to let the dog in.
We got a little wild on that one, too.
See, here's the thing with Black Art. Black Art will make you do strange things.
Really? Do you know any of the secrets of Black Art?
Well, I don't know. No, I don't know the secret. Jim McEwen would never tell me, and Adam wouldn't tell me either. But here's the thing. The very first release of Black Art, I was over on Isla for the Phage in 2010. And I went to the Brook-Laddie party at the Port Charlotte campground where Robin Lang was performing. Afterwards, we went to Simon Coughlin's place in Port Nahaven, which was just up the road from the B&B where I was staying. We start drinking Black Art, and we got plenty of it.
Oh, God.
3 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m., we're playing croquet on Simon's front lawn by car headlights.
Oh, my God, I needed to be there.
And we're playing croquet until 4 in the morning. They drive me back down the half mile or so to the B&B. Now, you would think, after being up till 4 in the morning drinking God knows how much Black Art, that I would have been completely wiped out the next day. By noon, I was back at the distillery for its distillery day, working the entire day, putting the show together, and not a single thing. That's why Black Art is magic.
Wow.
Now, either I had deja vu or you talked about that on one of your episodes.
Oh, yeah, I've talked about that a few times.
All right.
Black Art will make you do strange things.
Goodness.
I could probably even be persuaded to ski after drinking enough Black Art.
Wow. Double diamond. That's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, keep thinking that.
Wow.
More like Extreme Bunny.
Yeah. Yeah, I need like double green.
Yeah.
The Whiskey Hunter asked if the 5.1 Black Art is better than the others then.
Yes.
Well, that's what they're saying, yeah.
I think it is. I think it is. Not to put down any of the ones that Jim McEwen put together, I think this is the best one yet.
Excellent.
Wow, that is saying something. Because I was at a board game conference when a guy let me try the Black Arts 3.1, and then I came back and was able to get the 4.1, and I run a little Scotch tasting at this deal in Dallas at this board game deal, and that's where my buddy from Jersey said, "Hey, I'll buy that. Just source it for me." And even then, I got that one I think from Applejack's for $2.80.
Yeah,
I mean that was a great price.
We need a whiskey board game. You got to talk to your buddy.
Oh boy!
Someone asked when the STD board game is coming out.
We need one. They've got a whole viticulture deal put out by a buddy of mine, but yeah, I don't know. We'd have to figure out what that was going to be.
You're in charge of that one.
Yep, I'll run that bad boy.
But you can't talk about it.
Oh Lord, have mercy. All right, now I got a question for you, Mark. Have
Sure,
you?
go ahead.
This is somewhat self-serving, but have you ever actually watched our show or caught a snippet?
Yes.
Okay. from even a critical standpoint, I don't care where you come from on that, what could we improve on, and maybe what do we have that works?
I think you guys are doing exactly what you should be doing because it's authentic, it's genuine, you're coming from the heart, and you're doing it right. So I wouldn't change a thing.
That's because of me.
Yeah, he's the brains. Well, thank you, sir.
A few more bottles in the background.
Thank you. A few more bottles. Yeah, we need better bottles in the back.
I'm kidding.
I know. But thank you on that one. I mean,
someday.
Don't change a thing.
All right, because I'll be honest, we had talked about what level of quality we felt our show needed to get to before we actually even reached out to you to see if you would come on the show.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
I am not kidding, because
would you ask?
We had talked about having him on the show, but we literally I know, but we literally sat down over a drink.
Who do you think I am, Jim Murray? Come on.
Well, you are up there, sir, and you
no.
Trust me, you're the pinnacle of the social media of whiskey. I mean, you know it. You are.
No.
And we'd hit a point where I was like, he literally had mentioned, you know what, we need to talk to Mark and see. And I said, I agree, but
guys,
when?
I wish you'd asked me 2 years ago.
No, yeah, but 2 years ago we didn't have online figured it. We didn't have the Hangouts down.
Hey, guys, relax. This is whiskey. It's cool.
I know we're good.
Cool.
It was just funny because 2016 was our goal to have a live show where we would work in a live show, and we did that.
No,
I'm telling you,
I'm having fun. I wish we'd done this a long time ago.
Well, I agree 100%, but I mean, quite
we
honestly,
may just have to set this. Maybe this will become like a quarterly or a semi-annual.
Well, I don't know if he wants to go all in.
Deal.
Of course, why not? Sure, let's have some fun with it.
Okay.
I know I'm gonna have to buy some more bottles.
Yes, if you can keep making him open stuff, you need to come on as often as possible.
If that's all it takes, hell, let's do it.
Oh God, let's hit a couple questions.
Yeah,
and
let's
then
do that.
We'll get Mark out of here.
Hey, let's do this then right now. Mark, we will reserve you for the next Compass Box special releases.
He gets all these.
Yeah.
Well, I have to hunt them. I have to find them.
Yeah.
But say
I don't know what John Glazer has coming up, but when he releases his next batches, let's do it.
Hold on to what you get, and when I get my bottles, we'll do those.
Okay.
Because he hunts his. All right.
Hard.
I'm with you.
I got to admit, I've never had a bad Compass Box yet.
Yeah, he is really shining a light on proper blending. He really is.
Yeah.
The art of it. A couple questions from the fans, and then we got to get Mark out of here. I can tell.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of people signing off.
The boss is going to come down and tell you.
No, she's gone to bed. I'm cool.
Okay.
What we need to do, though, just for the show's sake, is probably wrap it up, sign that off, and then Mark, we'll stay on the line with you.
Just for a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have a few questions for you ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
What do we got?
And by the way, I didn't point out, this is, I'm using coin 113, which is going Lloyd's wife. Right. The Beard's wife is getting this one.
The Beard's wife, which sounds funny. 135 we'll just be putting out later. Now, a couple questions coming in.
We haven't had too many questions hit up here lately.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of comments. People are still chatting. Don Sutcliffe was with us, Mark. I don't know if you know
from the
Don.
Exceptional Series.
Yeah, see, a little bit ago, Robert told me to use the safe word.
Yep. Sorry, that means I'm talking too much. He'll throw out a Velvet Elvis if I'm talking too much. So we have our own safe word.
I think we better wrap it up with the family.
Let's
We're
wrap
at
it
an
up.
hour and
Joe
40.
Kim says, "Woo-hoo, great show."
A lot of people have been commenting. So good comments, good viewers. Appreciate it, everybody.
Let's shut down the live and then just hang tight with us, Mark, and we'll wrap a few things.
Well, let's let Mark real quick point
where
out
they can find you and
your website, your podcast.
The website, of course, is WhiskyCast, WhiskyCast.com. And you can also find me on pretty much every social media platform in the world at the same thing, WhiskyCast. And The show's on iTunes as well as most of the major podcast aggregators. And just keep listening and have fun. Let's have fun with whiskey. I'm having more fun doing this stuff than I ever did in years of mainstream journalism. I would rather do this than ever go back to covering politics or business or any of that other crap. This is fun.
Amen.
And this is how I want to spend the rest of my career.
Roger that. And on that note, we're going to scotch it, you Scotch gods.
Sláinte.
Sláinte, guys.
Dummies.
Sláinte, Mark. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Thanks for having me.